My name is Tyson. I'm a recovering alcoholic, and I have been sober since January 13th, 2015. My childhood, I grew up in Santa Ana, California. I really didn't have any serious traumatic stuff that happened growing up. I grew up on both sides of my family. They were partiers. A lot of smoking weed and drinking growing up. So I started doing that at a very, very young age because I thought that's what you do. Basically, I grew up in an alcoholic household. Okay. It was always like, even though we were provided for, it was like walking on eggshells. No matter what, there was always intensity in the home. Just a lot of anxiety and nervousness growing up, man. No self-confidence. Just kind of didn't feel quite a part of. Maybe a big part of that was being in an alcoholic household. One of my uncles, he's been a meth cook for many years. They weren't the first ones to ever give me meth, but once I started using meth with my neighbors, my uncle was stoked that I was on board. But they're much older than me, but yeah, I was doing that at 13, 14 years old, tweaking hard. My first thing I ever did was smoke weed. I started drinking it, smoked weed at 11, drank at 12, did my first rel of meth at 13, and I was off and running on meth for all of the 90s and early 2000s. And once I started doing time, in and out of jail, in and out of prisons on all my 20s, I got turned on to opiates. So at the end, opiates were my drug of choice. In the beginning, meth was my drug of choice. Looking back now that I've educated myself and I'm in the addiction field, opiates are a depressant like alcohol. I always felt perfect on opiates, man. Yeah. And I remember it started off with doing a little bit of heroin, but I got really into the Oxycontins and the pills. Bunch of dirty doctors giving me prescriptions. I had enough prescriptions to help 20 cancer patients, and I was doing it all. So I was like, you know what, man, I think I can't, addicts, we're smart, we're very intelligent, right? I'm like, I got a fucking plan, bro. I'm I'm gonna start doing heroin, and then I'm gonna sell these pills, right? So I can pay my bills and get high. So that's basically, at the end, I just went full heroin. Yeah, I was running around with older crowds, getting into that underground tweaker scene that was going around in the 90s, doing all kinds of fraudulent shit, hanging out with porn stars and the drugs. I love the lifestyle of Southern California on meth back then. I was in Santa Ana one time and I bought a 20 of meth from some little alley in Santa Ana, right? And it was these two older white guys in a motorhome in this parking lot selling drugs, right? And anyways, I go to smoke it and it was fake. And I was so drunk, I went into this murderous rage, and I told my friend, what kind of weapons you got right here, and he's like, I got a machete. And I was like, give me that fucking machete. So we went back and I knocked on the door, and I'm like, hey, I need some more, and they opened the door, and I pulled them both out, and I was ready to chop their heads off. Luckily, I didn't have to do anything. They took me pretty serious, and then obviously I'm like, you know what? I not only want my money back, I want everything you got now, because since you fucked me over, I didn't have the courage to die, and the pain of living had become too great. And that's when I knew I was between a rock and a hard place. I no longer wanted to live, and I didn't have the courage to die. And that was a very scary place to be in the middle of. I can handle a lot of physical lows and bottoms, but my mental lows and bottoms are scary for me. When my mind finally started slipping, and I ended up in a couple of psych wards at the end of my addiction, and a tough guy like me doesn't go to psych wards, right? And and I love talking about that now because it shames my disease. It shows how powerful this thing is, and that's where I was at. I was that broken enough where I'm like, I can't do this anymore. I got a 16-month prison term for a cotton of heroin, right? And I'm doing time, and the laws had just changed where I had the opportunity to get out and go to a rehab. Okay. So they let me out of prison on Prop 47, where possession went from felonies to misdemeanors. And I go, and they go, part of your condition is you got to go to this rehab and do 6 months. So I went to a recovery center, and that was where the first month I didn't take it as serious. I've been playing games with recovery for 25 years. And anyways, I had my last relapse, and I came back, and I was just broken enough where I'm like, I'm gonna give 100% into my recovery this time. I've never done that. and I gave it 100%. And here I sit before you today, a changed person. I have 2 children in sobriety. I'm married to a beautiful woman. I have a 3-year-old son, a 1-year-old daughter. I have an amazing career in the recovery industry. I do a lot of outreach, and I'm on the board. I'm a board member of Yellowstone Recovery in Costa Mesa. I'm a board member with the Knoll Family Foundation. The lead singer of Sublime that passed away from heroin, Bradley Knoll. I work with his family. We're going to open a house called Bradley's House. Cool. It's a nonprofit detox for musicians, but you don't have to be a musician, just anybody that needs help. Yeah. I just got my certification as an interventionist professional. So now I can go travel the world, and I have an international certification. I can go to any country in the world and help a family, man.
That's amazing.
You know, so I just literally have gone all in with the recovery field. I want to spend the rest of my life helping people to recover and maybe get a taste of what I've been able to experience, man. If you're out there and you're still struggling, your mind's going to tell you that, yeah, maybe that guy can change, but I can't. And I used to think the same exact thing. And most people aren't quite at the point where they want to change. If you're at that point where you don't know what to do, but you can't take it anymore, you need to reach out for help. And I just want to tell you that I encourage you, don't try and do it on your own. That's the biggest lie, is that I got to figure this out on my own. This is the one thing I beg of you not to try and figure out on your own, because you'll die trying to do it. Ask for help. There's hundreds and hundreds of thousands of men and women who have recovered from drug addiction, and they can help show you the way. It's like being a Lamborghini engine technician, and you're going to try and figure out how to rebuild a fucking engine. You don't know what the fuck you're doing. Come talk to somebody who does know what they're doing. Let them take you and guide you through, so we can reteach you how to live.